Hello everyone, AlzaboHD here with a brand new EU4 guide for you here today. In this video guide, we will cover all the diplomatic idea groups present in Europa Universalis and highlight which are the best for any given scenario you might find yourself in. To that end, we will analyze all 6 of the diplomatic ideas in the game, exploring the benefits and setbacks of each group, along with their synergies and my recommendations on when best to choose them. Let's get started with the guide. The first diplomatic idea group we will cover in the guide are the trade ideas. This idea set is ideal if you want to quickly boost the trading capacity of your nation, and especially powerful for landlocked nations or players without the ability to make trade companies and benefit from the bonus merchants provided from this mechanic. The first idea of the set boosts your global trade power by 20%, which is a solid way to increase your economy in the early to mid game. The second, fifth, and bonus trade idea give you an extra merchant, adding up to 3 in total, which can be beneficial in the early game but are quite worthless if you're a colonial trading empire. This is because every colonial nation you have with more than 10 provinces gives you an extra merchant, and every trade company region you have with more than 50% trade power also gives you an extra merchant. In terms of practicality, this means that by the mid to late game you will already have a merchant for every downstream trade node you control, without wasting your monarch power and investing in this idea group. The next ideas, merchant adventures and national trade policy, increase your trade range, which is worthless as this is increased by technology, and your trade efficiency by a meager 10%. Likewise, the next 2 ideas, trade manipulation and fast negotiations, are largely filler, as trade steering can be increased by having more light ships patrol your trade nodes, and caravan power only matters if you aren't already conquering all of the territory in a trade node, which you really should be doing. If you decide to fill out the entire idea group, you can also benefit from decent policies, the best of which is arguably the Production Quota Act. In conjunction with quantity ideas, this policy can supercharge your economy by boosting production, increasing your national goods production by a substantial 20%, and correspondingly increasing your monthly income greatly. Overall, I consider trade a weak idea group, and find it difficult to find a situation in which I would recommend picking it over more useful diplomatic idea groups. Given that you can easily obtain unlimited bonus merchants with colonial nations and trade companies, the only possible benefits this idea group brings are slightly powerful policies and the rather significant starting idea of plus 20% global trade power. Unfortunately, trade needs a substantial overhaul before I would recommend spending any diplomatic power into it, and the only benefits of taking the group are the policies that require far too much investment for far too little reward. The second idea group we will cover in this guide is the Espionage set. This idea group has recently been overhauled, and has been transformed from one of the worst picks in the game to a rather competent, albeit unorthodox, idea group to invest in. As you might have inferred from the name, espionage focuses on boosting the effectiveness of your spies, claim fabrication, and the bureaucracy of your empire. The first idea, efficient spies, is a highly useful pick, and speeds up spy network construction greatly in foreign nations, which allows you to fabricate claims and steal technology faster. Furthermore, this idea also decreases advisor costs, which when used in conjunction with innovative ideas, Mamlukian government forms, ruler personalities, and policies, can allow you to run level 5 advisors cheaply in order to gain ridiculous amounts of monarch power each month. The second idea in espionage is also quite useful, as it gives you an additional diplomat to fabricate claims, integrate subject states, or increase relations with other nations. The third idea, foreign spy detection, is largely worthless, as the AI will constantly spy on you and sabotage your reputation throughout the game regardless if you catch them or not. The fourth idea decreases your aggressive expansion impact by 1/5, and is incredibly useful to mitigate coalitions in places like the Holy Roman Empire. The next idea, claim fabrication, is also deceptively powerful, particularly for empires with large amounts of subject states, as it allows you to fabricate claims on territories that you do not border. If you aren't a pirate nation or interested in role-playing, the next idea is largely a waste of diplomatic points, but it does lead into audit checks, which is quite possibly the most useful idea in the entire group. This final idea lowers your yearly corruption automatically, and is essential for handling the corruption creep that results from having too many territories and not enough states. To be honest, I haven't played around much with Espionage's idea group's bonus of plus 50% rebel support efficiency, but I imagine it's useful for players interested in destabilizing rival countries, or for players that want to troll their friends in multiplayer. One of the best policies to pursue with espionage is the Privy Council Establishment Act, which requires defensive ideas as well as espionage ideas completed, and provides the player a 10% fort defense bonus along with an invaluable -0.1 yearly corruption. Using this policy and idea group, you can reduce your yearly corruption automatically by a massive -0.2, which can be further reduced by being ahead in diplomatic technology, and greatly counteracts the corruption creep rampant in large and expansive empires. Overall, this idea group is useful, albeit optional, and I recommend picking it if you plan on expanding aggressively through claim fabrication, or if you anticipate running into problems with yearly corruption.
The next idea group we will cover in this guide is exploration, which is more or less necessary for nations and players interested in colonizing provinces themselves. Of course, with that being said, you don't need exploration or expansion if you plan on stealing colonies from other nations, or by using your vassals to colonize for you, but exploration is great for peaceful players who are interested in doing all the dirty work personally. The first idea in the group is essential to this strategy, and allows you to recruit explorers for your navies and conquistadors for your armies, that can identify future provinces for you to colonize. Furthermore, this idea allows nations outside of Europe to explore North and South America, which gives you a chance to unlock the colonialism institution without being forced to develop your own provinces, or wait hundreds of years for it to arrive to your borders. The second idea, colonial ventures, provides your nation with a colonist, allowing you to directly colonize territories at the expense of native tiers and monthly ducats. Overseas exploration, the next and third idea, is often essential and required for you to reach North and South America in the early game, and expands your colonial range by a substantial plus 50%. The next idea has recently been nerfed, and is largely useless, and only increases your global settlers by 10 a year, disappointing given that diplomatic technology upgrades give you far more without investment into this idea group. If you thought that idea was bad, then you'll be disappointed equally by the next two ideas that provide terrible bonuses, as tariffs will undoubtedly form a minority of your income, envoy travel time is worthless, and expel minorities costs diplomatic monarch power and isn't worth it outside of role-playing purposes. If you don't have the Golden Century DLC, the expelled minority bonus is replaced instead by a plus 6% settler bonus, which is far more useful and will greatly speed up the growth of your colonies. The final idea in exploration is surprising, given that it is actually good, and boosts the naval force limit modifier of your nation by 25%, which allows you to greatly increase your economy by affording you far more light ships to protect your trade. Exploration's bonuses to completing the idea group are also good, although I would never recommend investing in the tree just to obtain it, and allows you easy access to overseas claims before you can unlock advanced CBs like imperialism in the mid to late game. The best policy for exploration is arguably the colonial expansion policy, which provides your nation with 20 settlers per year and reduces native uprisings by a further 50%. This policy is also readily available, as the expansion idea set has natural synergy with exploration, and the two idea groups are often selected together for colonial campaigns. Overall, exploration is mediocre, and I can hardly recommend it as even optional, providing utility to nations interested in creating colonies, or for nations that want the colonialism institution without having to spend their monarch power in developing their provinces. If you are not interested in colonizing territories yourself, or if you plan on conquering colonial nations directly, I would not recommend this idea group as it is not at all necessary for conquest-minded players. Why should you pay ducats each month when you can pay the iron price and create colonies upon the ashes of your enemies? The next two idea groups we will cover deal directly with boosting your foreign affairs, and are without a doubt the most essential and useful diplomatic idea groups you can invest your monarch power in. While you can opt to take both of them, in fact I would recommend this in many situations, there are many scenarios where taking one earlier over the other might prove advantageous to your campaign. Both of these groups are invaluable as they increase your diplomatic relations and also increase your diplomatic reputation, but they have their particular niches and flavors which we will now cover. The first group we will cover in this set is the diplomatic idea group. This idea group offers substantial diplomatic bonuses that are excellent for almost all countries in any given scenario, and are particularly relevant for players interested in obtaining personal unions and becoming Holy Roman Emperor. The first and third idea of this set provide the player with an extra diplomat, totaling 2 diplomats, and is invaluable as they are not as easily obtained as merchants, and can normally only be unlocked from upgrading your government form to Kingdom and Empire. The second idea in the diplomatic group provides you with +1 extra diplomatic relations, which is essential when you're interested in obtaining more alliances, royal marriages, subject nations, and personal unions without taking a monarch power penalty. The next idea, benign diplomats, is surprisingly useful as it not only increases the rate in which your diplomats improve relations with other countries, but also speeds up the rate in which your nation regains negative relations vis-a-vis aggressive expansion, insults, and other malices. Experienced diplomats, the fifth idea in the group, provides an incredibly useful +2 diplomatic reputation modifier to your nation, greatly speeding up diplomatic annexation, boosting nations' opinions of you, and increasing the chance that you inherit your personal unions and even lowering the liberty desire of your subject states. The following idea is also invaluable, and allows your nation to annex 20% more provinces in peace deals. These flexible negotiations are crucial for late-game expansion, and synergize well with absolutism and dumping provinces into client states. Lastly, the final idea of the group reduces diplomatic technology costs by 10%, which is useful but arguably the weakest bonus in the set, a testament to how powerful the diplomatic ideas are. Upon completing diplomatic ideas, your nation is rewarded with quite possibly the most powerful bonus in the game, stability insurance. Any actions that normally lower your stability, like breaking royal marriages, now only reduce your prestige, allowing you to effectively cheat at the Game of Thrones that is obtaining personal unions. Other actions that normally greatly destabilize your nation, like declaring no casus belli wars, now only cost you 1 stability, and breaking truces are also far less punishing with this mechanic unlocked. Diplomatic ideas also unlock a large amount of useful policies that synergize well with the other idea groups. If you want to further increase the amount of diplomats available to your empire, for example, you can opt to complete the defensive idea group to unlock the diplomatic defensive policy. This policy works very well with the HRE and diplomatically oriented campaigns, bringing your base diplomat count to 5, and further boosting your diplomatic relations to secure more alliances and subjects. Overall, the diplomatic idea group contains highly valuable benefits to all nations, and provides the player with arguably the best idea bonus in the entire game. In much the same way that administrative ideas dominate their respective idea group, players would be hard-pressed to find scenarios in which diplomatic ideas shouldn't be selected outside of role-playing considerations. Diplomatic ideas are unequivocally top tier, and should almost always be selected in all of your campaigns, but there are certain situations where influence would be a better choice, and we will explore this idea group next in our guide. Next up on our guide is the Influence Idea Group, which is another top-tier choice if you're in the market of diplomatic ideas. While sharing many similarities and bonuses with the diplomatic group, Influence differentiates itself by focusing on boosting the power of your subject nations, making it perfect for countries that have large amounts of vassals like the Timurids. True to form, the first idea of the Influence group increases your vassal income by 25%, which is great if you have large amounts of vassals or very large vassals. The second idea, Loyalist Recruitment, lowers the liberty desire of all of your subjects by a substantial 15%, largely preventing them from declaring independence or seeking outside alliances to support their freedom. Integrated Elites, the next idea, is one of the strongest bonuses in the entire group, and allows you to effortlessly diplomatically integrate your subject states 25% more effectively, and also stacks with policies and diplomatic reputation to annex your vassals more quickly. The next 2 ideas are functionally identical from the diplomatic idea group, and when taken in conjunction allow you to have 2 more diplomatic relations and a staggering +4 diplomatic reputation to bend the entire world under the weight of your gravitas. As with nearly all idea groups, Influence also has a dud in the form of the Postal Service, which uselessly decreases envoy travel time, but even it might find a use in world-spanning empires where diplomats often find themselves lost for months crawling through Siberian wasteland. The last idea of Influence, Marcher Lords, doubles the force limit contributions of your vassals, which is downright deadly in campaigns where you have vassal swarms like in the HRE or playing as the Shogun of Japan. Speaking of which, if you're interested in making the most out of this idea group, I've made a guide on how to play as Shogun Ryoku, where I exploit a mechanic that permits you to have an unlimited amount of vassals, rendering Influence a top-tier choice for vassal swarm world domination. You can check out the video on the card at the top right of your screen if you're interested in watching it. Finally, completing Influence nets you a negative 50% unjustified demands modifier, which allows you to take more land from enemy allies and co-belligerents, and greatly reduces the diplomatic monarch cost of taking provinces outside of your war goals. As if these ideas and bonuses were not already overkill, Influence also unlocks arguably the best policies in the game. One of these policies, the incredibly powerful Vassal Integration Policy, reduces the annexation cost of subject nations by a massive 20%, and only requires influence and administrative ideas to be fully unlocked. Given that administrative is also a top-tier pick, you will often have both idea groups in a given campaign, making this policy as useful as it is readily available. Overall, Influence is arguably the second best diplomatic idea group, providing players huge bonuses that make vassal play viable and ruthlessly efficient. Given that most of Influence's bonuses apply only to vassals, however, it should be noted that Influence is a better pick for non-Christian nations, as personal unions will not be a consideration. Regardless, if you intend on playing with vassal hordes, or indirectly with large subjects to do your bidding, Influence is the best possible idea group you can choose within the diplomatic family. The final group we will cover in this guide are the Maritime ideas. If you thought we saved the best for last, you're wrong, really wrong. These ideas are just downright dreadful, and it pains me to even have to cover them, so let's make this quick. The first idea is pretty bad, and increases naval tradition from trading, which presumably enables you to recruit admirals with higher skills. The next 2 ideas are even worse, and might be the worst ideas in the entire game. I'm not sure what the developers were smoking when they designed the Maritime idea group, but National Sailors modifiers should be considered a war crime, and a 10% bonus to ship repair and sailor maintenance are probably the legacy of an April Fool's joke taken too far. The only good bonus in the entire group is found in the fourth idea, as Grand Navy provides nations with a plus 50% naval force limit modifier that allows you to spam even more light ships to boost your trade income. Given that naval upkeep is already minimal from going over your force limit though, this bonus isn't as good as it appears on paper. The next idea reduces your ship cost by 10%, which probably also reduces your naval maintenance, but I've never been in a situation where I've wasted enough diplomatic monarch power to test this out. Seahawks, the next idea group, gives you access to another military leader and reduces the cost of your admirals by a game-changing 25%. Incredible. The last idea of the set, Naval Fighting Instruction, is awful outside of role-playing purposes, but can boost the efficiency of your pirates if you end up deciding to use your light ships for anything other than protecting trade. At last, we've made it to the end of the group, where we encounter the bonus of Maritime that allows you to repair your ships in coastal zones that you control. Given that it only takes your ships a maximum of a day or two to dock and repair without wasting your monarch power in this terrible group, this bonus is laughably bad, and is actually worse in practice than on paper. If you've blown your points into Maritime for some godforsaken reason, you can also unlock the Organized Marines Act, a policy that requires quality and maritime ideas completed, and gives you a moderate plus 20% morale bonus to your navies. I'm hard-pressed to think of any reason to ever choose this idea group, unless you enjoy giving yourself an intentional handicap. If you want to waste your diplomatic monarch points this badly, I'd suggest using them for development, cultural conversion, or even reducing war exhaustion before looking in this direction. The development team will need to completely redesign this idea set for it to even be casually relevant, and I personally recommend they nuke it from orbit and rebuild it from scratch. Before concluding the video, I'd like to overview a quick recap of the idea groups we covered in this guide and rank them according to their usefulness. These tiers correlate with the perceived value of each idea set, with higher tiers being far more valuable, and lower tiers being situational and avoidable in most campaigns. The top tier consists of diplomatic ideas, which provide the player with invaluable diplomats, reputation, and a jaw-droppingly powerful bonus mechanic that lets you cycle royal marriages for personal unions, and influence ideas, which strongly complement players interested in playing with subject nations and allows for arguably the fastest way to acquire territory vis-a-vis the greatly enhanced integration and annexation. Next up on our list is the middle tier, consisting of espionage that provides numerous bonuses and benefits to spy networks and an invaluable yearly corruption reduction, and exploration, which is outright necessary for players interested in colonizing provinces themselves and for nations outside of Europe interested in obtaining the colonialism institution for free. The lowest tier covers the idea groups that I would strongly recommend avoiding and consists of trade, which provides your nation with increased economic capabilities that are largely worthless in the face of colonial empires that provide you free merchants anyways, and maritime, the worst idea group in the entire game that needs no further explanation. Ultimately, these tier lists are subject to change with the development of the game and depend on what nation you play, but overall, they are relatively stable across each patch and expansion. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. This video guide is part 2 of a planned 3-part series detailing all idea groups in EU4, and the previous video covering administrative ideas has already been released. This video was sponsored by viewers like you, and I'd like to give a special thanks to my patrons who support this channel. Stay tuned for more videos, and the rest of the series will continue with a comprehensive guide to military ideas early next month. I've just moved back to France, and I apologize for my relatively long absence, but I'm back to making new content now, and I'm excited to release a new video early next week, and I hope to see you then.